Hello and welcome to another Roblox showcase. In this video, I will be showing you my process through creating and programming a light reflection simulation using raycasting in Roblox Studio. So, I hope you guys enjoy this Roblox showcase. It was a lot of fun to make, and if you want a tutorial, make sure to comment down below. So, let's get right into it. So, before we get into the scripting aspect of this project, we first need to look at the research that I went through to get all of like the math formulas and stuff that I needed to make this simulation work. So the first thing I did was I looked up like math reflections, or like the reflection on math, and this is what I got basically. So you have an incident ray, which is where the light hits a surface. It has an angle between the normal vector, and it's this symbol right here, and that leads to the reflected ray, which is the same angle to the normal vector. And you may be asking what a normal vector is, so let me get up Paint 3D. So a normal vector is basically, let me draw a part. So this is a rectangular prism, but it's 2D, so let's just assume there is 6 sides to this. But a normal vector would be a vector going from a right angle to any one of the surfaces. So it could be going there, being here, and it has a magnitude of 1, and it basically just tells you what direction the face is pointing. And that's very useful in regards to reflections. And when you are raycasting in Roblox, it actually tells you what the normal vector is, which is great. So this is good for 2D. It's a good starting point because the incident ray, like this angle is equal to this other angle. But the way I actually got my formula to work for the light reflection simulation is from a blog post that led me to a forum post, which gave me this formula right here. So this basically reads as the reflection vector is equal to the light vector. So this is where the light touches, like the unit vector of the light touching, minus 2 times the normal vector times the dot product. This symbol right here means dot product of the light vector times the normal vector. And so the dot product is basically a value between 0 to 1, and it shows you the angle of the vector. I don't quite understand it completely, but I don't have to because Roblox already has a formula for it. So that's all my research. There's a surprising amount of documentation on stuff like this because there are many lighting models and computer graphics that use these functions as like fundamental pieces. So yeah. So back in Roblox Studio, there is a few things to take note of in my code. So let's go in my code. So first thing, before we actually get into this module script, let's go to this basic script. There are 2 firing modes in my program for the laser. There's laser just fire, and this is what you saw in the intro. So it animates the laser bouncing off surfaces, which is nice, but it only runs one time. Oh, it's in the wrong spot. Oops. Well, there's a second mode, which is laser dynamic fire. So if I run this, you can see it's already in action. And what I can do is I can rotate any of the parts or move any of the reflection surfaces, and the laser will actually move. So I can angle it like that, maybe move this one a little bit. There you go. You can do something like that. And it just updates very frequently, so you can move around the laser while the game is running, which is pretty nice. So now let's actually get into the code. So first thing to take note of is this function for reflecting. This is what I showed you on that forum post because it's this formula right here. Again, I don't quite understand it, but I don't need to because this just gives me a reflection vector, and all I have to give it is a light vector and the normal vector. And here are some variables to take note of because this tells you how much time, or it's the multiplier to determine how much time it takes for the laser to animate. And this is the max distance of the ray. And this is the radius, which basically means like the size of the part. And if the laser animates, and the max reflections. So, because if I don't have this feature in for max reflections, then there will be a script timeout because, for example, if a laser is bouncing off one part, then bouncing back like millions of times, it'll just break. And so there are a few functions here, most of which are just pretty simple. Like this is a background function. This is just for object-oriented stuff. If you don't know about that, I have a whole tutorial series about that on object-oriented programming. It's in the description. And the real magic happens down here. This is where the laser actually fires. So basically what I do is I get the direction, the origin of the laser, and I do workspace raycast. And the reason I'm using this function as opposed to ray.new and then find part on ray is because this is the newer function. It's the one recommended to be used by Roblox. So just keep that in mind. And then I call this function in this while loop. So this just checks if there's a raycast result. And with this result, I can show the beam. And this is basically the same function as I showed in a tutorial a few days ago on how to make rays visible. And it's right here. And the animation part of this is right here. And it's pretty weird because I had to animate the offset of the part as I animated the size to get that nice, like, expanding sort of effect to the part. But it worked out pretty well, and you can change all this tween info. And by the way, I will have a project download in the description. I think a GitHub repository and a pastebin, who knows, but probably a GitHub repository. And so let's go back down here, and I basically just run over as many times as I should reflect. And the only thing that's weird here is this statement right here, which basically checks if the part hit is the origin, we stop, just to add a cool bit of functionality to our laser. And then dynamic fire, we just fire over and over and wait and then clear it, which basically just gets rid of all the lasers. And that's about it for the programming. And again, there are two modes, dynamic fire, and these are the only functions you really need to do. And all you need to do is send in the function or the part that you wish to fire it from. And keep in mind that whatever part you give it, the laser will always come from the front surface. So right here. So if I rotate this around to there, it angles it that way. So if I rotate it, I think it's on dynamic. Yeah, there we go. So I can angle it wherever, and it will just reflect across certain surfaces. And there you go. So that's all of the scripting. And that's about it for this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little showcase of my light reflection simulation. It was a lot of fun to make. There's definitely a lot of good games that could come out of a concept like this, so make sure to comment down below if you have any ideas. And also comment if you want a tutorial on this thing. But keep in mind, I will have a project download in the description if you just want to play around with my code. So make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys have a nice day, and goodbye.